I, again, am Rachel, for those of you who don't know me. I am a certified holistic wellness practitioner. I began that way because I had some health challenges and got really frustrated with the traditional allopathic medicine in America. And I am one of those kind of people that I like to learn and master a lot of things and then help other people have a shortcut. So that's really where my passion is as a practitioner. And then my co-host.
Yes. Okay, let me explain to you who I am. So I'm an arts educator through and through. Most people in the community know me as a cartoonist, but I've helped a lot of people learn through art. I'm formally right now I'm going through masters to do school counseling. But above all that, outside the education system, I run my own print and publishing company with my husband called Plot Twist Publishing. And you'll see in part of the presentation how all those identities merge to help people. Yeah.
So we're going to try to bring it all back, but I am a firm believer, and there's a lot of science behind it, and if you would like to nerd out with me, I will explain all the science behind it. But I am a firm believer in the connection and coherence of a group. So before we dive into this, we are going to take a minute. I'm sure some of you were frazzled from traffic, frazzled from work, frazzled from life. So we're going to take a second to get grounded and centered as a collective before we dive into the material, okay? And this technique that I'm going to walk you through, it only takes a couple minutes, and later I'm going to show you a biohack for it using Jean as a guinea pig. So you can do this technique with your eyes open, your eyes closed, whatever you're comfortable with. So everybody take your hands and place them on the center of your heart. This just creates the physical connection and kind of wakes your energy up. And you're going to focus your attention in the area of your heart. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart space. You want to breathe a little slower and a little deeper than usual, but find an easy rhythm that's comfortable. And as you continue to breathe, make an attempt to connect to a regenerative emotion like love, gratitude, or compassion. If you're struggling and that feels like too far of a reach, just try peace, ease, calm, or neutral. And I don't want you to think about it or visualize it. Try to really generate that feeling in your body and breathe it in and out of your heart space. So as you continue that breath, let's anchor in that emotion. And if you feel called, maybe set an intention about what you're hoping to learn today or to get out of this workshop. Take a few more deep breaths. And when you're ready, come back to conversation. Awesome. There's a lot of really cool science about everything that we just did, and I will be teaching that in additional workshops, but today we're really focused on heart-centered living. So today we're going to talk a little bit about vibration, and specifically the vibrations of love and self-care. We're going to do a case study using Jean and her comic work, which is really just the story of her life in super relatable way. We'll talk about some practical applications similar to what we just did, but using some biohacking tools, have a little Q&A, and then we'll explain how you can connect with us. And if you like what you hear and you would like to do more with us, there will be options for that as well. First, I want to talk about energy, vibration, and frequency. And everyone uses those terms interchangeably, but they do actually mean different things. So energy is the capacity to do work. And then vibration is really just the rate at which something oscillates or moves back and forth around a point of equilibrium. And then the frequency is how fast something's vibrating. Everything in the universe is made of energy. Everything in the universe vibrates, and everything in the universe has its own frequency. Okay? And so that is important when we're talking about self-love and self-care, because if we are at a frequency that is low, it's hard for us to love and care for ourselves. Emotions, people think, are this nebulous thing that is not physical, but actually emotions are just energy, and they are physiology. Specifically, when you have an emotion, what happens at a physical level is you receive inputs, internal or external. So you receive a thought, you receive a touch, you taste something that brings an emotion, right? So all of that input creates the biochemicals, and then that floods your body, and that is how you actually experience emotions. Anyone want to guess from a physiological level how long emotions actually last? That's a good guess. What do you think? Okay, just kidding. What do you think?
Like how long the residual stays with you?
Like how long, if you experience an emotion, how long does it last? So the answer, you were close, it's 90 seconds. So the physiology of an emotion only lasts 90 seconds. Now, when I say that, people are usually like, there's no way that that's true. What happens is, particularly this happens with negative emotions or emotions that we find difficult. After that 90 seconds, we intellectualize them. Your brain has an emotional immune system just like your body does. And so anytime something happens to you, or you receive that input and that biochemical process happens, then that triggers the emotion. The emotion lasts 90 seconds. And then we have a tendency, if it's uncomfortable, to push that emotion through our own lens of conditioning. So then we repress, we ruminate, and we resist emotions. So that is just our brain's way of saying, ooh, danger. And we've been conditioned to, when there is danger, repress, ruminate, resist. And repression, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So repression is the subconscious act avoidance, where you're just like, your body is like, we're not going to feel things. You don't really know that that's what you're doing, usually until somebody points it out, but it's not with awareness. However, resistance is also the suppression of emotion, but that's active. So maybe you feel really triggered by a situation and you have that initial wave of emotion. That does only last physically 90 seconds. But then you start to like, oh, I'm going to put that away and not do anything about that. And we can't do that forever before there's negative consequences. And then ruminating is replaying, overthinking, and like ad nauseum obsessing about things that you just cannot let go.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, I think if everybody is honest, they have examples in their own life where they do any of these three things in combination, sometimes all at once, just depending on what they have going on, right? So here's the thing though. What you refuse to feel, you can't heal. And what you bury alive continues to thrive. So what happens is those emotions just get stuck in your physiology. You have to properly metabolize them. And we haven't been taught how to do that, right? Like, especially women, we've been taught to make ourselves smaller, to keep the peace, to not cause any drama, right? And so, and then I think generationally too, that there is a lot of, or I should say a lack of emotional intelligence passed down through generations on this is how we should handle emotions. So the antidote to those things, especially repression and resistance, there's a couple of them, but the biggest one is expression, right? So if you're repressing something or resisting something, you need to give it a voice. This is the other reason why this is such a good collaboration with Jean, because one of the best ways to do that is through creative expression, right? For her, it's art. For me, it's writing. For some people, it may be music. For other people, it may be photography, right? Like there are so many ways that we can get that out. But if you don't express those emotions and you don't truly lean in and release and free your emotional immune system, then they just live in your body waiting to come up as physical manifestations or like as an outburst when you've reached max capacity, right? The other one is to release, especially, this is the biggest one for rumination. Like, it is so easy to get caught up in, well, I could have said this differently, or I should have done this differently, or I, didn't play that well. And so what happens is, again, the rumination usually comes through when we've been programmed and conditioned with a lot of should and a lot of toxicity in the shoulds, meaning I should be prettier, skinnier, healthier, or if you're too skinny, I should weigh more. I should be a better mom. Whatever that should is, we all have it. And that toxic should constantly taps on our unworthiness wound. And everybody has a worthiness wound. It looks different in everybody. For some people, it's, I haven't had kids, I haven't gotten married, I'm not financially successful enough, I don't have enough friends. I mean, you name it, there's every different variation of that. So when we are ruminating on emotions, that is a key and clear indicator that there is some sort of toxic should that we need to release. And being able to intentionally make that process happen, it's when you bring awareness to something that you get a choice point. You get to decide, am I going to keep doing this or am I going to shift tracks, right? So that is the biggest way to get over that. All right. So the last piece I want to talk about, multi-dimensional self-care, is really just about making sure that you're paying attention to every area of your life, right? Again, we get tunnel vision, right? And so if our worthiness wound, say, for example, is around work, it is so easy for us to hyper-focus and be like, I'm going to do everything that has to do with work so I can heal this worthiness wound. And then once I do that, everything else will be great, right? Anybody else, or is that just me? Yeah. So your frequency, right, is, and your baseline is all tied to the relative health, the balance, and the coherence of your health amongst all of your dimensions. So physical, emotional, social, spiritual, occupational, intellectual, like all of those different dimensions are key and critical to making sure that you have access to your intuition, that you are paying attention to what your heart wants. But most importantly, if you are stuck in a place where you're ruminating, you're repressing, all of that leads to you making actions that are not authentic to who you actually are. And the quickest way to betray yourself and to stop loving yourself is to act inauthentically, right? Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Jean now, and she's going to kind of walk you through her comic, which walks you through a living example and case study of how emotions didn't get dealt with or like shaped and what that looks like.
Okay, great.
I'll do it for you.
Okay, great. So just talking about stretch marks, this was released in 2022. And really, this is a product of all this journaling that I've done in the course of my life. And there's a few stories, because at the center of my worthiness wound was weight. And so this isn't a comic about weight loss. It's mostly about how each of these moments stretched me as a person. And so it goes from like little kid and those worthiness wounds all the way to adult. And so we chose 3 stories to talk about it, right? So this one is kind of post college already. And so I graduated during the recession. There was no job. So I spent my time at the rec center trying to network and make friends. And so I couldn't get a full-time job. While having a part-time job, I hung out here at the rec center. Not a bad gig. And so here's me kind of checking out the classes. And there's these women here who are heading to a class. And so it got me really curious because they look like they're having fun. So I wanted to have fun. And they were heading into the dance room. And if anyone feels this way about working out and whatnot, it's really intimidating. You think people are watching you. But the first great impression was that they were welcoming, right? So said to come on in. And when I was there, their instructor was just full of life, right? She was also had the same physicality as me. She wasn't like someone ripped or anything. And she constantly affirmed to people who were in there. She said our bodies are beautiful. Again, great first impression. And she created the culture in proximity to having good vibration and energy, right? So all my classmates in the class were older, and during our workout, they were cheering each other on, right? They're like, you're beautiful, you're sexy, we got this. And I'm here in a hoodie, and it's summertime, right? So like, I don't even know why I'm wearing a hoodie in this time, right? And so we're all sizes and we're all empowered, right? It's a great feeling to encounter that at a very low point of being unemployed. This dance space feels like magic with this energy. So everyone's even collectively cleaning up. These are the kind of people I want to hang out with. Yes, go ahead, next. And so I felt safe and happy and supported over time. We would have lunch after class and whatnot. They were also mothers and bosses as well. And so I soaked up that energy. And so the next slide will show you, this is kind of the beginning of the book and kind of the wound that I had growing up with food in my own family, right? Because they would tell me to eat, but then they would tell me I'm big, right? And so being able to be part of these spaces much later in life helped me have a better perception of my body. And so that's one story of it. And the entire book is not about weight loss, but it counts for every psychological point that has impacted me and my perception of self. So,
and I really loved this particular story in her comic book because it talks about the power of collective vibration. So sometimes you may not be able to pull in, whatever frequency it is that you need. Like I said in the beginning, if reach for love, but if that is hard today because you've had a lot of life and a lot of stuff going on, then maybe borrow a little from someone else and you just get to calm, ease, peace, or neutral, right? So there is definitely power in the collective, and it was that collective vibration that made her feel, okay, it's safe for me to just be me, right?
Yes, absolutely. This one is called Community as age 22. And I was waiting right here for a Weight Watchers meeting, right? Because at the time it was about weight loss. But as I was going to these meetings, I was actually being in more community with people. Again, it wasn't about weight loss. It was talking about how our families have impacted the way we perceive food. So it was really great, And this one is a very important story because, I was at a point where I was going to the gym all the time, but again, I didn't have a great relationship with food again because I wasn't home enough, right, to eat the food that I had bought, and it made me feel really guilty because it was feeling wasteful. They were overdue. I was like really hard on myself because I'm like on this plateau. And then at that moment, just even my entire apartment at the time, I was like, how many missed opportunities did I have to take care of myself because my food was going bad? There's trash everywhere, mail not opened, And so I realized in this moment of like what felt like despair is to take a step back and realize to make a meal at home is a big deal, especially in today's world, right? And to be at home with myself, like, what is it that I actually want to eat when I carve time for myself instead of expounding it on everyone else. And so I think that even making a meal at home for everyone is a rare luxury these days, because, you know, you can be really busy, and I was currently at the time very terrible at cooking. And then I got really dependent on fast food just to get by, right? So then I was clearing up here. So it's a little hard these days to make a meal under your own roof. It's enough to give, because I really gave all my time to people that I didn't realize I was actually killing myself as I was, you know, no nutrition. I had zero nutrition. And so just the simple act of just washing my own dishes was, I think, an act of self-love and care for myself. And so, yeah, clearing that space made me feel like I was winning back at life. And so life at home is also the home in your belly, right? So just the space even at home, because we talked about in these first few stories how important community space was, but even the space, you know, and to this day, I'm not 100% super duper clean, but I recognize how that helps my psychology when I'm neither, you know? So some key comic themes from the case studies that we showed you: your surrounding energy matters, supportive safe spaces, and that's in every arena or dimension of your life when it comes to your wellness. And then self-compassion is a practice, right? A nourishing practice. Sometimes we're like, so I got it, you know, and then life happens. And so self-compassion can be also a way of just grounding where you are, instead of being like, but my spa day and my vacation are 3 days away, you know, like it's knowing like where your feet are, really.
Yeah. So I have known Jean for a long time, and part of the reason why I wanted to collaborate with her on this, not just because her story is so powerful, but also because I was a witness to it. I got to witness, and even still continue to witness, the ways in which she went from literally pouring every ounce of herself into everyone and everything else, to now seeing the way that she is like, okay, I'm going to care for me today. And if that means that I have to let other people down, then so be it. And I think most of us, again, we've been taught that, especially because in this group, it's all women, right? We've been taught that we can do, be, and have it all, and that we should be perfect while we're doing it, right? And I think, you know, there was a cool moment in feminist history where the door was open, right? But somehow we've lost the message, and it, instead of it being like there's an opportunity for you to do that, it became a mandate of you must do that, right? So we work and take care of kids and volunteer and, you know, do everything for everyone else and not spend any time taking care of us. And I think the simple message for me, and even watching Jean's journey and witnessing it as a friend and as she's going through this, is, and she's great about this, is it always comes back to the heart, right? So the heart is the way that you access your intuition. It is the seat of where your higher self lives. And a lot of people, from a physiological standpoint, a lot of people think that the brain is the most powerful electrical impulse in your body, but actually your heart creates more and stronger pulses than your head does. And from your heart, actually, we have scientific measurements that can go 3 feet outside your body, and likely it is more than that, because the instruments can only measure so far because they're only so sophisticated. So surrounding yourself with community, with good people who are doing the hard work. And even if you're not at a place to be able to, like, today, I'm going to pour into myself, even having that inspiration where you take it from other people is awesome. And I actually learned a lot about, I'm going to create some boundaries for myself by watching the things that Jean has done. So now I want to show you, so I have a couple of sensors. I have an older version that you can buy today, or you can actually buy this one, but I have used it. So I'm going to have Jean sit in a chair.
I'll bring it so you guys can face
and I'm going to show you. Well, they don't actually need to see you because they're going to see it up here.
Okay.
So I want to show you in real time what it looks like when and how easy it is for you using your heart space to just shift into anywhere.
Oh, okay.
And then this just goes on your ear. It doesn't matter any ear, just like so that it's on the lobe more. So this sensor that she's wearing is Bluetooth to my phone. So right now it's just calibrating. You'll see it in just a second. It's just talking and making sure that it can read her information. So Jean, I want you to focus on this here and just breathing in and out with it. That's all I want you to focus on. And it takes a couple seconds for the actual measurements to come up. But what you're going to see is this dot will turn a color, and then they will start to fill in around here. And I'm going to, so she's in a state of coherence right now, but I'm going to manipulate her a little bit because I want you to see how quickly you can shift in a negative way, but also in a positive way. And I can do this because I know she loves me and she'll forgive me. So now I want you to think about your father-in-law. Don't look at the screen, just think about your father-in-law and feel whatever feelings come with that. So I chose her father-in-law because he's experiencing some health stuff. Oh, okay, there we go. See, now she's blue. Okay, Jean, I want you to get really mad about something.
Okay.
Get really mad about something. I don't know what, but
I'm gonna think about my in-laws.
I love that. I love that. Get really mad. See how she got to red? And because she is so good at regulating herself, she got right back to blue, which is medium. And then she's getting into green. So I'm just swiping through so you can see some different options. But this is what I want to show you. So the red is very low coherence. It's a small baseline, right? The blue is the medium coherence, and the green is high. As you can see, if she shifts into I'm mad about something, that's an immediate drop into big mad, right? Jean is very good at regulating her emotions. So she's able to rebound pretty fast, but also because she's watching me and she's thinking, it dropped again, right? Because she is thinking and using her thinking brain instead of feeling and using her feeling brain. Does that make sense? But these things that we're talking about are very practical, and they don't necessarily are not necessarily difficult to implement. And then Jean, I wanted to have you in the back of your book where you have those discussion questions. Just can you show that?
Sure.
So the point of this inner balance sensor and other things like it are so that you can learn to train your physiology so that when you get that sensory input, you get that wave of emotion, you can learn how to regulate it in the moment. If you learn how to regulate it in the moment, then you create a choice point that allows you to stop the repression, the rumination, the resistance, right? So that's what this is for. And then this is just an option that is a practical thing that you can do. All it takes is 3 to 5 minutes a day, 3 to 5 times a day. That's it. And your baseline shifts. Yes, ma'am.
So if I go into the office and everybody is a little crazy, as coworkers sometimes can be.
Yes.
Can I, obviously, apparently I cannot control others, so what your patients to you about, can I influence them?
Yes. So I love this. So again, 3 feet outside your body, right? So your frequency where you're vibrating, 3 feet all the way around you. The thing about energy is you can neither give nor receive permission to be in someone else's energy, right? All you can do is control whether you're accessing it or not by space.
Right.
So I can be in Jean's space and I'm cool with it because energy, we're aligned, right?
Yeah.
There are some people, like you may be at work, that you can't stand. And being in their energy is ugh.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and this is actually a superpower, and you can sort of control them if you want to. So that breathing technique that I taught you how to do, where you breathe in through your heart, what that does is it raises your frequency. And humans are hardwired and designed to resonate with the highest frequency in the room. So there are studies that have been done that if they would put 4 people at a table, and 3 of those 4 people know this technique and they're doing the technique, and the 4th person doesn't know anything about it, but they're measuring their frequency at the same time, their frequency raises to match everyone else around the table. And who's ever at the table is highest. So if you're in a situation where you are with a coworker and they're being annoying, or like, I don't know about you guys, but I have teenagers who love to not just like step on my nerves, but like tap dance on them. And so even that, I can influence how they react and behave by taking care of me. It is the ultimate form of self-care, because if you regulate you, then you influence regulating everyone else at the grocery store, your pet, it works on pets too, because everything is frequency, right? So you can regulate it that way, and it's the best form of self-care that you can do. So thank you for that. I have always resonated with things that were on the Eastern philosophy of you have the power inside you to do things. So that led me to follow people like Gabby Bernstein, Tony Robbins, even Deepak Chopra, all these people who are like, oh yeah, just meditate or like raise your frequency, but they never tell you how to do it.
Right.
So when I learned about this, I was like, oh, this is how. I actually can do this. And so I got certified during COVID to teach people how to do this, because so many people I knew needed it, but I started by learning it for me first. So it even, like I said, 3 to 5 minutes a day, or 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 5 times a day. And I usually tell people to habit stack it. So habit stack means that you just take like a habit you already have and you put it on top of that. And then you don't have, the other important thing I want to say is that you don't have to have the sensor in order for this to be effective. You can just do the technique anywhere you are. In fact, it's designed so that you can be driving, you can be in rooms. I will tell you, I had a very challenging day personally today before I got here, and I used this all day, every day to just regulate myself, and no one would ever know if you are using it or not, because it's all happens inside. This sensor is really just to train you, to help you understand what it feels like to be in coherence in your physiology, because the truth is most of us walk around numb. Most of us have lost the ability to feel because we repress, because we ruminate, because we resist. There's 2 really good books that I recommend about specifically feeling emotions. The first one is called When the Body Says No by Dr. Gabor Mate. And that entire book is essentially about how when we don't feel things, we manifest specifically certain sickness signatures. So for example, somebody who has cancer, they typically have the same emotional repression signature. Somebody who has ALS, or somebody who has, I'm trying to think of what else was in the book. Maybe hypertension was in there, but essentially you can take any disease, and if you profile those patients, they all have the same emotional repression signature. So if it's anger, if it's fear, whatever that is. And then the other one that I never say the author's name correctly, but the name of the book is The Body Keeps the Score.
Great book.
And that, yeah, it is. And that book, it is heavy, but that book is essentially tells us how we, again, when we don't metabolize emotions, they stay stuck in our physiology. So you may notice a pattern where if a loved one died in December, then every year in December, you may find yourself being sad, but you're not really sure why. Or even if it wasn't a death, because that's kind of an obvious, like, duh, yeah, I remember. But sometimes if it's been 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you might not, right? There's also times where it could be like, if there was like infidelity, or if you had a difficult childbirth, if you got in a car accident, all of that stuff, when it is triggering our emotional immune system, when we don't properly metabolize that, it stays in our body. And even if we don't know why, it's coming back up.
Yep.
That's the very definition of what we bury alive continues to thrive. It will just look different, right? It doesn't look like an outpouring of emotion. It'll look like a physiological problem or a mental breakdown, when really it's just you've reached your window of tolerance, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to scan these QR codes, this is how you can directly connect with Jean and I. Mm-hmm. But then I wanted Jean, while you guys are scanning, to share in the back of her book. She was super thoughtful, and this is the teacher in her.
Yeah. You know, just like the Body Keeps a Score and all these heavy books, I wanted to make sure readers decompress. So there are discussion questions and journal prompts, and some of them are like, how can you be more mindful of talking to yourself with kindness and love? Why is it important to recognize when everyday interactions can have a significant impact on your self-perception, right? You know, an insult can sit with you for a week and you're still thinking about it, right? The rumination part. So it's always important to decompress, and things may have come up for you even when we're talking to you about some of this stuff, because it takes time to process, and it's okay to late bloom in the process. Right?
Yeah. So one of my favorites in there, and this, because it also speaks to me, is I'm a music person. You can tell the barometer of my mood based on the music that I'm listening to. And so that's another great way to use actual frequency, right, in music to also regulate your emotion. My kids think it's funny because I listen to actual frequency music, where all it is just music that is made of frequencies. If you have Spotify, I'm sure there is on Apple Music too. I don't. But you can just type in frequency music, and there are specific frequencies for almost anything that you need or want to accomplish. And so I will listen to that, especially if I've had like a tough emotional day. I'll listen to that to just like decompress. It's great to listen to while you're meditating, but really any music that speaks to your soul will do, really. So good playlist. I have really amazing playlists, I will say, if you would like to listen to I listen to everything. So they range from frequency music to women's empowerment to hardcore punk rock to Christmas to class. I mean, I literally have everything. So last but not least, so Jean has some stretch marks here. If you would like to buy those, or you can use this QR. I think this QR code actually goes to Plot Twist. Okay, is where we set it. So if you would like to, she's actually does things that are not related to stretch marks. Like, she's a really incredible artist in general, and does all kinds of cool comic stuff. And then I am doing, for this class, I'm doing a Heart Aligned Energy Reset Bundle. So what that does is it's $99 ? Okay, sorry. And it comes with an assessment that will tell you what your stress level and well-being is in every area of your life. It comes with a report, and then you will get a 30-minute session with me where I'll give you some tips of how you can shift that. And then it also comes with an e-course. So it will explain a lot about what's in the report and all of that stuff, but I will be able to talk you through specifically, like, hey, you have an issue in this area, and here is some ways that you could maybe overcome that. Okay. Anybody else? Questions?
Well, we hope you keep in touch.
Yes, please keep in touch with us. We are going to do more of these. I just want to say thanks to Jean. So thank you, friends.
For the flowers. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.